Hi, I'm Julius, 37.
And I'm Mars, 40.
I live in Germany with my wife, our 2 sons, and our 2 dogs.
And I live in the Netherlands with my wife, our son, and our dog.
We are both entrepreneurs together with our wives.
And next to that, I am also employed.
We live very busy lives with very few spare time.
So we need to make sure we get the most out of our days.
We want to live healthy, develop ourselves.
And challenge ourselves.
And together with that, we want to be good husbands.
And a fun dad.
And that's why we're sticking to a strict regime.
For 75 consecutive days.
Welcome to Fatherly Grit, thriving through 75 hard. Yes, welcome. Fatherly Grit, the last week. Mars, how you feel about it?
Yes, Mars Dog represent.
Jesus Christ. Starting off strong.
I'm such a gangster dad. How do you feel? Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah?
Can't complain. I'm still at the same level as what I explained last time, like finishing it for the sake of finishing it. But so far, I had one hiccup.
Again?
This time I didn't do my reading one evening. Mars. Oh, I'm such a fuck up.
Yeah. But again, lucky you that you're not doing the actual challenge, right?
Exactly. I don't have to start over from at day one. So yeah, I thought I do feel a bit guilty about it.
Okay.
But then again, I did a lot of extra reading the days after and before. So I figured, why not? Yeah, for the rest, it's all good.
Nice.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. Oh, no, I'm not really good, but we're going to talk about that later. But from a challenge perspective, I think I managed to get everything in. The most challenging part was more likely last weekend. As I said in the last episode, or as I told you guys on the last episode, that we had the hockey tournament over the weekend.
Yeah.
And it was quite eventful. But I actually have to start on Thursday because we recorded the last episode on Thursday night. And
Yep.
I still had to... and while we were recording, I received like 2 emails, and there was a podcast recording scheduled after our recording. And they asked me to edit the full thing till the next day. So I edited till like 2 a.m, got it done, sent it out. And actually a week later, now I got an answer on my edits.
You worked an all-nighter, sort of.
Yep. Yeah, but anyhow, they're going to pay for it. I'm going to do kind of an extra fee on that for the whole all-nighter thing. And then Friday came, normal day, and there was other stuff going on where I had to do edits as well. Somebody wanted something, I forgot. But it was still, again, like 2:30, and we had to be at the meeting point at 7:45 in the morning to kind of pick up the rest of the kids to drive 3 hours to the tournament. So I more likely started my day saying, hey, sorry, Huberman, I'm really sorry, and had like a huge coffee right after I woke up. And obviously I didn't pack the car, so I had to get up earlier to get kind of my car packed. And since it was going to get a packed day, I decided, okay, it's a good idea to have a walk as well. So I got into bed at 2:30 and got up in the morning, I think at
2:35.
I know, at 5:45 or something like that. And then I had my workout, packed all the rest of the stuff, and then jumped in the car and to the meeting point. The interesting part, which made me kind of angry, was we had a 3-hour drive. The first match for the boys were scheduled at 1:45. So we had like a lot of downtime. There was a girls' team as well that they played, so we had to cheer them on. That was the plan. That was the reason why we got out so early. But the girls' match started at 11:30, so we could have gone a little bit later at least. But the interesting part is the next match for the boys was at 6:45. So we had like 5 hours, which we had to fill. There was a playground next to it and stuff. It was a huge tournament, so there were 20 teams, so it was a big tournament. But you have to entertain like 12 9-year-olds for 5 hours, and they are not and you had to take care that they're not going to fully spill their energy, so they had a little bit energy left to play the last match of the day.
But seriously, was there only one field available? Or
Yeah, that was
what's
just
the deal?
one field, and it was always boys
Seriously?
match, girls match, boys match, girls match, boys match, and it was 20 teams.
How can you schedule a tournament with so many teams on just one field?
Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
that's ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna write them an email.
So yeah, that
I'll be
was just
Karen.
the good thing was that I had there were a lot of parents, so a lot of people came along and to watch the game and accompany their kids. So as I said, I booked myself 2 trial memberships in 2 different gyms in that town. So I went to the gym in the afternoon. At some point, I went to my son and said, okay, I'm going to be away for like 2 hours. Just don't do any stupid stuff. And
Don't hit any of your teammates again.
Yeah, right. And then, I went to the gym. Amazing gym. So they have less people living in that town than we have in my hometown. And the gym was incredible. And it was super cheap, but they had a normal kind of workout area. They had 2 cardio areas, one with steppers, one with kind of rowing machines and all the other stuff, and like one heavy plate area and one with like Hammersmith machines. Super really, really fancy for a pretty decent price. And in this town are 3 of those, so it's a chain. Plus, like the rest of it was incredible. Yeah, I had a good leg workout. It was too warm in that place, and I just had I forgotten a t-shirt. I just had a hoodie, and it was incredibly hot. I don't know if they turn on the AC, but it was exhausting just from a heat perspective.
Don't you feel when you go there for such a trial thing, don't you feel a bit like you're cheating them because you know that you're not going to get a membership? But did one of their sales reps come to you as well?
Yeah, and I said, I'm planning to move into your town in like 2 months, and I'm looking for apartments. And I thought maybe I just give it a try and just try gyms as well on that weekend. So I said, yeah, that's fair. Okay, perfect. But then I came back. And there was no real food available. So there was a buffet but there was a lot of a couple of veggies and apples and bananas, but a lot of cake and not really healthy food. So, and they sold like sausages and stuff like that. So nothing really nice. So, but there was a pasta buffet in the evening. But I'm a pretty heavy, so I need food to work. So, and the pasta buffet was literally like 2 small portions. I was able to get my hands on 2 small kids' portions of pasta. And not to spoil anything, but I jumped on a scale on Monday morning, and I lost originally 2.5 kilos over the weekend.
What, you lost 2.5 kilos over 1 weekend?
2.5 kilos over the weekend, just because I drank my normal water, but my basic nutrition was apples and bananas, and I eat like 6 apples a day and 3 bananas, and that was more likely it. Because there was
you did
no food.
the sweatbox workout.
Yeah, so not perfect conditions. But the funniest part was, so we slept on the field. So it was a hall more likely, or like a gym, a huge gymnasium gym from a school. And so we slept in it. They were able to kind of pull something down. So half of it was sleeping ground, and the other half, they hosted a movie in the late night for the kids. So the movie was going on. So we were able to put the kids to sleep around 11:30. What they didn't tell us, that there will be, so the AC will get back on at 4:40 in the morning. And you know the white noise in the plane?
Yeah.
Multiplied by 5. And that's the sound. You are completely exhausted, sleeping on an air mattress, which is not super nice for your back. So you're not going to have the best sleep. And a fat guy next to you snoring like a motherfucker.
That would be me.
And other kids, he was a huge guy. And obviously, and kids and making noises and whatever, because you sleep with like 120 to 140 kids in one place.
God.
Plus parents. Yeah. And the AC turning on at 4:40 in the morning, which sounds like an airplane is going through this hall.
Something tells me you're not very eager to join that tournament again next year.
Yeah, we are going to sleep in a hotel indefinitely. And that's a decision. But how can kids perform with... So my son, luckily my son was... So he was awake, and then I gave him my noise cancelling headphones and my mask, and then he just fell asleep again, luckily.
Oh, wow.
I didn't do so well there. I fell asleep for, I think, an additional hour because I like white noise. It's a white noise thing. But obviously a lot of people were not able to. So, and having 9-year-olds with a max of 6 hours of sleep and a complete tournament day ahead of them is not as cool. So,
No.
And especially that day, I think they had 5 or 6 matches. And after 4, they were exhausted. And they didn't, and that's the main reason I want to talk about it from a parenting perspective. So, the teams, and I'm already talking too much, I'm sorry, but it's going to be interesting in a second. So the whole tournament was for 9-year-olds of like 2014, and the whole kind of class is 2013 and 2014. So, but the plan was to host it for the kids of 2014. Out of the 10 boys teams, I think 7 were 2013. So already 1 year ahead from like a training perspective. And obviously that's not really fair.
No.
So all the teams that were actually or came with the 2014 team did like 7, 8, 9, and 10. On the other hand, my son and his team did, I think, placed 9th, but just lost 1 match, and the other were just tied before the playoff round. So they didn't do
they
too
lost
bad.
1, but all the other ones they drew.
Yeah, they drew. They didn't do too bad, but it wasn't enough to move further in the tournament. But again, how are you... So when you know, why are you putting teams that are obviously better and better performing into such a tournament? That doesn't make sense to me. Why do you do that?
Especially because there's like with the juniors, with the kids, it's logic that you have age categories, because when you're a year older or 2 years older, it makes a huge difference in terms of how far you are.
Yeah. There were goalkeepers that were, I think, 2 heads taller than my son.
Yeah.
So even
and
from
like
a height perspective, you saw it's how as a trainer, what is the purpose? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Because it's...
But okay, this sounds like a horrible tournament organization.
Yeah. The location was nice, and the entertainment part was... So the whole location was cool. There was a playground outside so kids can go... But it was such a stretch. You should have hosted the boys tournament on Saturday and the girls tournament on Sunday, for example. Obviously, then you're not able to cheer on the other team, the girls team or the boys team. But from a performance perspective, it would have been way better.
Yeah.
And it was 1 day, so you can come in the morning and go home at evening. You don't have to do like the whole sleepover thing, which is entertainment for the kids and exciting, but for the performance standpoint, it wasn't good.
Yeah. But then the topic that we touched last week with the growth mindset and the fixed mindset, this is obviously then a perfect situation to work on the growth mindset, right?
Yeah, and I had a lot of talks with not just obviously my son, who performed really well. I was like, that was quite good. He had quite a good situations where he handled himself really well, but I was able to pull off a good conversation because it was demotivating. And when you don't win on the first day and just drew and lose, that's not cool to go to bed with the feeling, okay, we are not going to be
No.
placed in the first three. So why are we actually doing that? So I think I had a couple of really good conversation with the kids, and it was a good training ground for me that weekend.
Is Miss Carol Dweck proud of you?
I don't know. Maybe.
Do you talk with the other parents about it as well?
Yeah, they were upset as well. And interestingly, so the good part there was from time to time, and I think you know what I'm talking about. There are always these overly excited parents. They're too completely eager and really like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? That they're trying to fulfill their failed life performances through their kids. Interestingly, on that tournament, there were none. Not really, at least. So I didn't see them or I didn't hear them. Normally, they are, especially from teams that are from Hamburg, for example, they're constantly kind of staying on the sideline and screaming at their kid. But this time it wasn't the case, which was really, really nice. Anyhow, so that was more likely my weekend. I was able to get another workout in on Sunday, and I did a great morning walk in the morning. Just strolled through the town for a good hour, and then so I did my 2 workouts. So as I was able to pull it, I drink all the water and had read my book and stuff like that. So that was surprisingly easy.
Wow.
To pull it off.
When did you read the book? Do you
In the
in between
morning.
matches just take a half an hour?
Yeah, and I actually worked. So I brought along my laptop. I worked on our podcast episode, and I finished 2 additional edits because my son was playing and running around. So there was no need for me to kind of supervise the kids because I was just a standing by parent, and I was there when they played, and I was there for lunch and all this stuff. But on the downtime, he was outside anyway, so I was able to sit in a quiet corner and work, which was cool. So I actually
Nice.
got stuff done over the weekend.
Very productive.
Yes, but we left the conversation last time with a cliffhanger. I would like to continue the conversation on the actual job description of a parent.
Yeah. For those who haven't listened to the previous episode,
Shame on you.
shame on you. You missed out on something really good. Shameless self-promotion.
Yeah.
Best podcast ever. No, we spoke about that. We listened to a podcast of Huberman Lab with Becky Kennedy. And it was an episode about parenting. And Becky Kennedy had a very interesting thing that she said, that she mentioned during this podcast, which triggered me a lot and which made me think of parenthood in a way that I hadn't thought of it yet. And basically what she said, if I can paraphrase it, is if you start a new job, or if you apply to a new job, or if you have started a new job, whatever, you will always have a job description. You will always have a list of things. These are your tasks. These are your responsibilities. This fits in there. This doesn't fit in there. But for parenthood, there is no job description. And it's a bit weird because it's a very important job, obviously, taking care of a human being, which is in the beginning completely helpless without you, and making sure that a human being develops into someone who's an addition to this world, let's say. At least that's my vision for my kid. And she just basically said, okay, what is the job description of parenthood? And well, you had 1 week to think about it. I'm very curious what you're going to come up with.
But I would like you to start because you already had a plan.
Yeah, that's true. So I think on top of that list, and in huge capital letters with exclamation marks in bold, italic, underlined, etc., keep him alive. It's a very basic thing, and I think that is job number one or task number one of us. Keep him alive or her. But obviously, that is a very obvious thing, and it comes with, how are you going to do that, and in what kind of way are you going to keep him alive? And I think one of the important things is to offer safety and trust to a kid. And with safety, I would mean make sure that he can develop himself in an environment which is not going to do him harm. And that can be either making sure that he doesn't, I don't know, hurt himself in specific ways which are dangerous to him. Like when he's still young, make sure that he stays away from stairs if he cannot really deal with stairs yet, or watch out with water because he might drown. These kind of things, very obvious things. But it's also providing a safe environment. In a family, I think it's very important that your kid knows that he or she is in a safe environment, and he or she can say things to you which they cannot say in the outside world. Or, like us as parents, he should always have us as a safe haven. If he wants to share emotions, if he wants to share secrets, we are always here for him, and he can share and say anything he wants. And I think the trust that we need to give him is that he should be able to trust us as well. So whenever we say, like, you can tell us everything, and when he does, for instance, I don't know, he's 14 and he's done drugs. I'm just coming up with a very extreme example, but I want him to be able to tell us these kind of things. And with the trust, he needs to trust us that we're not going to get mad with him when he says it. Because if he then comes to us and he says, hey, look, I did drugs, obviously when he's 14, I'm not going to like it. I'm going to be very angry from the inside, like why, how, etc. But if I let him feel that I'm angry, he will not share these kind of secrets with me anymore. So that's one of the things that, like I'd really like to promote. So, and besides that, I think it's obviously it's important to teach your kid basic values, like be patient, be polite, be respectful to others. I think those kind of things, whatever your values are, I mean, they can be different for different people. But I think that's one of the one of the jobs that we need to do, and encourage and stimulate him, our kid, to develop himself. But we want to make sure he does it at his own speed. So I don't, like my wife and I, we don't want to push Ziggy to do things that he doesn't want to do, or to do it faster than is, like his own speed. One of the things at the consultation office when he was a baby, we had to put him on his tummy as a baby, and then he needed to be able to, stretch and get his head up and everything. And then I think they didn't feel that he was able to do it long enough, and that would then be, then it would hinder his development for the crawling and whatsoever, blah blah blah. And the only thing we thought, it will come. Like if we can put him on his tummy, but he needs to be doing the work. And if after 5 seconds he's annoyed with it, we just put him on his back again. We're not making him a lazy kid, but he will do it at his own speed. And if that means it takes him a bit longer than another baby or than average, fuck it. I don't know anyone who hasn't learned to crawl, to sit, to walk yet, but everyone does it at his own speed. So that's something that we have as well, for Ziggy. If he is not ready to get on a bike yet, yeah, okay, don't worry. There is a bike there. If you want it, just go to it, and we'll offer it to you. But if you don't want it yet, it's fine. And I think let him make mistakes is a very important thing. And one of the examples is obviously he is using his tricycle bike. And 2 weeks ago or something, we went over the market square with him. And he really liked it. But, he can be very clumsy. So sometimes he doesn't pay full attention, and there might be like a bit of a sort of a ditch in the road, nothing big or anything, but like if he gets in there, then he might tip over. And obviously it happened, and we saw it happen, or let's say I saw it happen when I was there with him. But I didn't prevent him from like, watch out, you might fall, you might hurt. No, I just let it happen. I let him fall. I don't let it happen when it's a big fall or a dangerous fall or when it's like heavy. But if it's a small one, I'll let it happen. And that's something my wife and I, both of us, think is good, because he needs to learn to see these kind of things and not always prevent him like, oh, watch out, watch out. Don't do that. You might fall. Don't do this. You might get hurt. No, let him fall. Let him get hurt. I think these kind of things are a life lesson as well. Like nothing goes smooth or 100% according to a plan. You need to sometimes fall and be able to get up by yourself. So that's what I think is a job description of a parent.
Sounds full. I would agree. So, I interestingly, I didn't thought about this whole make sure that he or she's going to survive, but obviously that's completely true. So, two things: provider, caretaker, and guide in life.
Yeah.
That was more likely the thoughts I had, where it was like, yeah, so obviously the whole providing part and taking care that the kid is, yeah, it's more, that's more caretaking, and providing is more likely the same thing. But maybe guide your kid that they potentially are not going to do the same mistakes that you were doing, or at least give them a heads up that they're doing something that you already experienced and that is potentially not the best idea. But
do you have an example?
yeah, I wouldn't say, yeah, you should start drinking when you're 13 years old and smoke weed in a young age, because it's not healthy, maybe. And you are going to destroy your brain. And we talked about the advice we had for our 20 years old. So I already started teaching my kids about nutrition, for example, and let them know that there are certain foods that will help them to develop their muscles and make sure they're healthy. And I'm not talking about, hey, junk food is bad or something like that. But we had this situation tonight where they asked for sandwiches, and we played hockey all day. So we went to the hockey court just for the fun of it and played in the afternoon. And it was like, yeah, but you should at least have like not just carbs. We have to figure out, so get an avocado, to make sure that you at least get something healthy into your body, so he can kind of resource the fuel he lost over the afternoon. And maybe eat some of the leftover of the lunch that I provided, which had like a couple of proteins in there and lentils and all this stuff. So I think that is the point. And I feel like in an ideal world, you're going to be not just a parent, but you're going to evolve into a lifelong friend, more likely. A person who is able to guide your kid in whatever situation they drive themselves and be a safe haven, more likely.
Is this friend, because I think that's an interesting part that you touched, because I would like Ziggy to see me as a friend, but is it my role to be his friend?
No,
as a parent?
No, I don't think in the beginning, definitely not. But when they get older and they hit puberty and they get independent, what then? Is you are more likely then become, in an ideal world, a safe haven. So when they fuck up, there's always a place they come where they are loved and where they can rely on when something is going on. I think that is, important. And I feel like to get to this point and make sure that the kids know that they always can come to you and there will be no judgment, maybe harsh words and feedback, but there will be no judgment because they're going to be loved anyways.
I think that's really nice.
I think that is important. And I think that's super difficult, to be honest.
Did you already have situations where you found that difficult?
I don't think so. I think this situation you come into is that they're trying to avoid confrontation and maybe consequences. But I think that is typical for kids. When they do something that is not okay, that's potentially going to have a consequence. Yeah, trying to avoid it and maybe lie. Not really kind of on a bad intention, but just no, I didn't do that. It wasn't me. I didn't drew pictures on the wall, except that I was the only person in that room. And I potentially have the pen still in my hand. No, I didn't do that. That wasn't me.
No.
So you know what I'm talking about. But that wouldn't be my ideal, that they know that I love them. Another example, maybe we talked about. Did we talk about hockey? I think we talked about school, and where he said it. Yeah, and I really put something into it, so you are happy or something like that. And I said, I don't care about that. I don't care. It's for this is basically you. You do that for you. You don't do that for me. And I love you whatever you do. I love you. And I'm proud of you because you're my son. So you know where I'm going at?
I think so, yeah.
So, but you have to. I think that is a constant thing you have to take care of. It's similar, I feel like, to the whole grow mindset. To make sure that your kids are aware that they're not going to be judged.
Yeah.
There will be consequences when they're not behave maybe in the way they should be, but they're not going to be judged. They're going to be loved anyways. Maybe sometimes it's tough love, but they are in a safe space.
And I think then it's also important that we as parents teach our children how to deal with judgment. Because obviously, we want them to know that we won't judge them, but there will be judgment, from the outside. There will be so much judgment from other kids. I'm talking about the extreme form bullying.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm really, I don't want to say scared of, but that's something that I find it a very difficult topic, because obviously kids get bullied by for things that they cannot change, like, for instance, Ziggy has red hair.
Yeah.
No clue if that's going to be something still when he's in primary school, but like, kids can get bullied because of all these small little things. And what I would like to know is, like, how can I make him resilient, and can I make him strong enough that bullying, that judgment, that negative judgment won't affect him?
I think that's super difficult. And so one of Kazi's best friends has red hair. And then, over the last 3 years, I never experienced one comment about his hair. So I think that is long gone out of the window.
I hope so.
Maybe that is. I'm not how sure. Maybe your Dutchies are different than there.
I can bring it back.
Yeah, I'm going to bring ginger bullying back. That's my thing now.
Just imagine bullying your own kid. How bad of a parent are you then?
Yeah. So I think resilience, and it all comes down to making sure your kids is self-conscious enough and knows and is aware about its self-worth. But on the other hand, with all this external influence, and just look at social media, and I think even we as grown-ups are not fully able to cope with that when you constantly get confronted with what other people have, what you maybe don't. Success, money, whatever gadget that is available that you maybe would like to have but are not able to afford right now. Cars, stuff like that. So yeah, maybe that is something, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah.
Having a kid, making sure that he knows or she knows what she's worth. But again, that's part of kind of being a guide and making sure that you are advisor and are able to support.
Yeah, and that's also something that you can, like it should be an active part of, like the family conversations, like that you speak with your kid, or like you ask him, like, hey, do these things happen at school? Do they happen to you? Do you see it happening to other kids? How do you feel about that? Like, how do you deal with it? And then, like in such a conversation, try to first of all find out whether it happens to him or to one of his friends or to someone else, and second of all, like teaching him like how to deal with it, and
Yeah.
maybe also teach him like where does bullying maybe come from. It's not about the person who's being bullied, but it's more about the bully it's himself or herself.
Yeah. So I had a conversation with my son, I think a week ago or something. He came to me and complained about another kid that they had an issue in one of the classes. He had an issue with him, and he asked me to reach out to his teacher and tell her, yeah, you need to talk to that kid. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. You have to figure it out. First of all, again, go to the kid. If you have an issue with him, talk to him and ask him what the issue is. If he's going to tell you, there's no issue, I didn't do anything, just leave me be. I said, okay, fine. If it happens again, go to your teacher and talk to her about it.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, explicitly say, we have two options. You take care of it or I take care of it. And so from the first class on, I told my son, say no 3 times. And if no is not enough, you punch as hard as you can.
Should we tell our listeners this is maybe not the best?
Yeah, but so the rule is go seek some help. If they're not going to help you, take care of it.
And how did it work? Or like,
there were a couple of situations, but the kids never bothered him again. There was a little bit there was a little bit of issue with the teacher afterward, but I told her, I'm not going to teach my son a lesson where he has to back down when he thinks he's not treated well. He has to learn how to stand up to himself. And I told him, make sure you announce that you're not happy with this situation, warn the person on the other side and let them know, if you're not going to stop what you're doing, there will be consequences. And tell them 2 or 3 times, if you're not able to seek any help, go to your teacher first, obviously. But if you're not able to get help and you don't know how to respond, obviously, so when there is no physical altercation, obviously not, but I told him, don't let them punch you first. Then always be the first one who throws the punch, and make sure that you threw as hard that they're not going to be able to punch again.
It's an interesting way. I have no clue, like if I would teach the same, or
it's potentially, but yeah, I
depends
feel like,
on the situation.
Yeah,
well,
of course it's not. And I obviously explained to him what situation, and again, that is the last resort. I always said to him, this is the definite last resort when you feel like there's no way out and you tried everything and the person is still like treating you wrong or whatever, and is coming to you in a physical way, not in a verbal way. There is no way you are able to win an argument against my son in their age group, at least. No chance. But yeah, from a physical standpoint, I feel like there is my son is not getting bullied. I told him not to bully everyone, but when you're getting bullied, make sure the bully is doing it one time and then never again.
Yeah.
Punch him in the throat as hard as you can. No, I didn't. Got his eyes out.
Do a kickboxing takedown. Put him in a headlock.
Yeah. Give him an elbow, and then you stomp as hard on his head as you can.
Okay, I think now we're gonna get a lot of complaints from listeners.
No, just joking. But I want him to be aware about the specific situation and that he's not going to take bullying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and obviously there is a huge role for teachers as well, but
Yeah, for sure.
there's only so much teachers can do or can see,
Yeah.
and that's something that is a difficult thing as well. But I would also like what you said, like if there's a teacher around, or always go there and ask for help or explain the situation whatsoever.
Yeah. Right. So that's my way.
And how about this is an interesting thing because, like I mentioned about him on his tricycle, and that if there's limited danger, let's say, we just let things happen. But obviously, not every parent is like that. And I'm just curious, like, if there is any listeners who are way more protective than what I just described, how do you look at that? Like, do you then think, oh, what a careless parent that is, that he lets his, I don't know, his kid fall or whatsoever? Like, I'm very curious, like, how their viewpoint is on these kind of matters.
Yeah, we could let's Q&A into the next episode. Maybe they can comment on that. I forgot to put a Q&A in the last one. Being a parent is so complex and there's so much stuff that you can do wrong. But on the other hand, I was on is it Rebecca Kennedy? Yeah. I was on her Instagram and I watched part of her TED Talk.
Becky Kennedy.
Becky
Yeah.
Kennedy. And she said something interesting which resonates with me, especially over the last couple of days, or yeah, I would say the last 2 weeks, was that there's so much stuff that you will do wrong, but you have to be aware of it and learn from the mistakes you've done and own up to it and make sure that they're not going to happen again, or more likely try to not make them again. Because there's a lot of stuff you can do wrong, and it's a journey. It's and again, the whole metaphor on it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that she mentioned as well is that at a certain point in the podcast, she says like, "Yeah, I shout at my kids. I'm not a perfect mother either. As I sometimes shout at my kids, but then afterwards, I go to them and I tell them, hey, look, mommy shouted at you. That was not the right way of expressing herself, and like those kind of things. I think probably I'm gonna have the same. Like I'll sometimes have a short fuse or a bad temper or no patience, and I'll probably snap more often than I wanted to happen. But something that she mentioned, what I found very strong, is that you afterwards you go to your kid and say, hey, look, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have shouted at you. It has nothing to do with you. I still love you, but it has to do with me. That at that moment I couldn't use the right tools to handle my emotions. How did it make you feel? Because she says one of the important things of a parent is as well that your kid feels understood and acknowledged, so that like in such a situation you ask how they felt about it. Yeah, oh, you felt scared. Yeah, of course you felt scared. That's really normal. I would have felt scared as well. That you acknowledge their feeling and acknowledge um, that it's normal what they felt, and that it's definitely not their fault but my own fault. That's something I found very strong of her. Like she had a very good example where she did this explanation.
Yeah, I agree. I had a situation in the car today where I snapped at Mike because they were constant fighting, and the 9-year-old is trying to trigger the 5-year-old. And obviously then fight breaking out, and I snapped and I immediately said, yeah, you are upset a bit with me, but I'm upset with me either, because that I don't want to do that. It's not fun for me. But there are times where I'm not able to help myself based on the fact that I told you multiple times to kind of stop it, and I'm just out of tools I can use to just figure this stuff out. And I apologized, said, hey, I hate this. I don't want to do that.
How much time was there between you yelling at them and
Immediately. Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's upsetting for me as well. It's not fun. It's not fun, and I don't enjoy it, and I hate it. I hate it so much. But you get agitated a bit, or to the point where it's like you don't have any more energy to cope with. And I could have just stayed quiet and just leave them fighting each other, but it's so annoying. And it's not fair because obviously the 5-year-old has no chance against the 9-year-old. And it's an unfair fight, more likely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you have to do the stretch between, obviously, the 5-year-old has its part in the whole situation, and that the 9-year-old doesn't feel that they are always the person who gets not yelled at, but has to kind of face potential consequences or gets harsh words to say, hey, stop it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm still stuck at the point where you immediately realize and apologize and addressed your own behavior. Mad respect for that, because I wouldn't be able to do that. I would get a bit stuck in that feeling, and I'm a pretty stubborn guy. I think this is the point. If my wife is listening to this episode, she's laughing and recognizing this. But it would be difficult for me, like literally difficult for me to acknowledge that I was wrong. I would have to have more time over that.
Yeah. But it's no, I think you will learn in the future that it's not fun. It's not fun at all. And you realize it the minute you do it. You will say, oh, this is so frustrating. I could do so much better, but I have no fucking clue right now how to cope with my own anger about the situation.
That's growth mindset as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Like realizing that you don't like this situation and learning from it to change it.
But on the other hand, it obviously then it was fully about me, where I addressed, hey, guys, this is not fun. I hate doing this. You know? It was obviously more me focused than telling them, hey, I'm sorry, guys. Obviously, I apologize. But again, the main message was, hey, this annoys the fuck out of me. This is not fun. I don't want to scream. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to do that. Just make me happy, guys. you know?
Help me. We're on the same team. Help me.
Yeah. Part of it, and I think it's a perfect message, how I'm doing right now. So I'm not at the best place mentally right now. And that is a major challenge, because obviously you have to, and we said, you have to be the provider, you have to be the caretaker. And it's difficult to take care of somebody else and, take care of your family, take care of all the other things you have going on when you are dealing with yourself, Obviously, trigger warning here. So we talk about mental health, guys. So if you have difficulties right now, so you maybe shouldn't listen to this. But
or maybe they should.
Maybe they should.
Maybe they learn something about how to cope with it. But
yeah, they're not going to, because I have no idea how to cope with it. So just a quick outcome. I think I struggle with depression as long as I can think of, and there are ups and downs, and especially when you are exhausted and there's stuff going on, it's more difficult to get a hold of yourself and just manage your mental health. And there was so much stuff going on at home and with work and all this stuff that I forgot to take care of me, more likely, and make sure that I kind of manage my mindset and myself, so that I came into a little bit of a struggle where I was able to manage my own mental state. And part of it, for example, and I had a conversation with my wife yesterday about it, that is, it comes down to a little bit of self-worth, I'm aware that I think I have a lot of stuff going on, and that I I accomplished a lot that I can be proud of. But now I feel like I'm in a situation where I'm not really see a purpose, and not with the
Okay.
kids. I want to exclude the kids based on the fact that but this whole, and I think that is part of the big picture more likely. But this whole stay at home dad, from time to time, I come into a situation where I just literally miss working, and I work constantly. But this is my old job more likely. So the external stressors that I don't have as a self-employed person, and that I'm able to more likely manage my own workload, and all this stuff I do on the podcast producing is not as urgent. But from time to time, I miss just getting up in the morning and get into the office and just leave everything behind more likely, and
Yeah.
just have a normal work day and have like work conversation and outside contact aside from my wife, my kids, potentially a couple of parents at the hockey field or whatever. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I struggled with that. And again, and that comes then swaps over into obviously that influences my mood. Huh?
Mm.
And then I get more agitated or get easier agitated, and I have struggled kind of with my self-consciousness. Am I a good husband? Am I doing well? Is my wife still happy with me? Is my marriage okay? Are my kids okay? Am I a great dad? You know what? You come into kind of a carousel where you have to be really, really patient, but you have to make sure you get out of it as fast as possible, because if you stay on that roller coaster, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse.
What I'm hearing is a couple of things. I think the last part you touch is maybe about insecurity,
Yeah.
and the other part. I mean, you mentioned you miss purpose, but you also mentioned that you miss the possibility to just like switch off the job. 9 to 5, close down the laptop, have no worries, have no stress. Those are completely different things. Because I mean, yeah, those are completely different things. Do you know which of those things is like the biggest part or the biggest trigger?
I really don't know.
And how open are you towards your kids about this? Because I think, like mental issues is a very big topic. A lot of people don't want or dare to talk about it. And I think that makes the topic a bit unavailable and a bit of taboo as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't talk with my kids about it yet, because I feel like they're way too young to know about this kind of stuff. But on the other hand, what is accompanied, and I feel like this is a situation and this is getting worse when you get kids, is more likely a fear of existence, that you constantly kind of worry about stuff, financials, whatever, relationship, whatever. But you have like the constant kind of small voice in the back of your head that is reminding you that everything is frail, and it can go down the drain super easy if you're not taking care of it. And the other thing is, a couple of days ago, I talked about my wife about the fact that since I stepped back, I'm potentially not going to be able to get back at my job when my kids are grown. And I'm not talking about 5 years, or maybe let's say 10 years, maybe. So and that obviously, I didn't think about that over the last 2 years, to be honest. That is the first time I thought about that I have no idea if I'm still able to get back, for example, in this whole marketing and business business development world, when my sons are old enough, based on the fact
But
that
why
I'm
not?
old. I don't know. I just, because I'm old then. And there are a lot of people, and I haven't worked in that job for like 10 years plus. I did
Yeah,
other
but I mean,
stuff, obviously, Yeah, but this is part of obviously then part of the mental struggle you have that are
Yeah.
not positive.
Yeah.
It's just the spiral of negative thoughts that you have
Yeah.
to dig out of.
It's not about whether or not that statement or that thought is correct, but
Yeah.
it's about the fact that you have that
Right.
thought.
You know?
But can I go one step back? Because
Yeah.
you mentioned, like, I don't talk to the kids about it because I think they're way too young. But I don't think that your kids are too young for this. I mean, you don't need to use words as depression or something, but I think, like, you can teach children at an early age already that it's normal that you have insecurities, or that you have moments where you feel down, or moments where you don't feel like doing anything, or where you're lacking energy, of these kind of things.
Yeah.
um, and I mean, I'm not telling you how to deal with this subject in regards to your family and your kids, obviously, but I think for me, I sometimes have these kind of situations as well, maybe, or probably not as deep as yours, but I do want to share them with Siggy at an early age, because I want him to know that that's part of life as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you're wrong. Yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should. When especially in this situation I just described, where I kind of yell at my kids, and not particular because and in particular in situation where I could have been handled stuff differently, but
Yeah.
I wasn't able to because I was so much in my head that I don't have the mental capacity to deal it in another way. Yeah, maybe you're right.
This brings
Yeah.
me to a topic. Like, I heard about this story. It was on the radio. It was like a famous Dutch guy. I don't remember who he was, etc. But he mentioned that he was at a certain point diagnosed with a form of cancer, and he had really, really heavy treatments, and there was a very big chance that he wouldn't survive. And he had, I think, two kids, very, very early age, like very young. And they asked him, like, how did you deal with that? Because he sometimes he got depressed as well, because he couldn't do work, he couldn't be a father, he couldn't lift his kids because he was too weak for it, etc. But he said that at a very early age he told them that, like, he was diagnosed with an illness, a very heavy illness, and that there are more moments where daddy cannot get out of the bed, and then he cannot play with them. And he really took them along in the story, like, obviously in a child friendly version and understandable version. um, but it gave the kids more understanding as well, why dad acted the way that he did. And yeah, I think that is a very valuable lesson for kids as well.
But on the other hand, I can tell you firsthand as a child with a mom who dealt with cancer multiple times, and
Mm.
I was highly involved. I think the first time she had cancer, I was 7 or 8 or 6. I don't know. I can't remember really what age I was. But I think the trauma of the fear of loss is real. And especially when you have to deal with it more likely on a constant basis over, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years, and cancer got back a few years ago. That is not easy to deal with, especially as a kid. And you realize it just way, way later. Way, way later. And interestingly, I want to hear your thought. We are way too into time, but I think this is something we can talk about next time, because I feel like it's important to talk about this kind of stuff. I told my wife, and now it's getting really heavy and really dark. So my brother died for years. So years back. It's I think I was 16 or something like that, and he was handicapped, and fully handicapped, super heavy, and he just passed. And I told my wife that in Germany there is the funeral or the memorial, and then there is a funeral.
Yeah.
And that is the last time I cried.
Really?
The memorial of my brother, which is 20 years ago. That is the last time. I didn't even cry on his funeral. And I still think about why I didn't. And since then, I never cried. Maybe I should at some from time to time, but I just
It
can't.
can help
Maybe.
relieve stress.
Yeah. And I just, the thought creeped in my head from time to time, but I think I talked with her last week about it. I more likely had the literal realization that I never cried after the funeral of my brother or after the memorial of my brother.
Also not out of happiness?
There was one time when one of my best friends got married and I had to take a speech, and I was overwhelmed, and then I cried. But on the other hand, maybe that was part of the cry that I'm going to lose him to his wife. That was
One
my
brother
way.
lost.
Yeah, one brother lost, and now is the next. He's next. Yeah, but especially because he was more likely, he took, or not, I wouldn't say took over, but he was obviously part of my inner circle, more likely. And he is more likely like my brother.
Yeah.
So
Do you never feel the urge to cry? Do you never?
I don't know. I don't know how it feels like. I can't remember.
I noticed that since Ziggy is born, or like actually since the pregnancy of Yosha, I cry easily.
Okay.
In terms of, like at a good movie, or I mean, fuck, when Ziggy was born, I called family and friends, and I was, he's born.
I feel like that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I would love to do that, but I can't.
And to be honest, I have a bit teary eyes because of your story now. But
yeah, I don't. Maybe I'm so. Yeah, I'm not emotionally numb. That is not it. I'm happy and I'm sad and I'm not. But I have difficulties to let go because I'm afraid what's to come.
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh God, this took a hard turn here.
This really ended on a downer.
Yeah. I don't.
No, but I think, to be honest, I mean, if we let this in, or if we cut this out, I just want to say I think it's very important that we talk about these issues as well. Because I mean, these are part of life as well, and I think these are part that everyone should know, that if anyone suffers with a depression, you're not alone. There are many people in this world that have this issue, fully diagnosed or not.
And I always say, and that is a little bit, tell somebody, talk about it.
Exactly.
Even obviously professional help is awesome, but it's hard to get nowadays. But there's always somebody, I hope, in your life who will have an open ear and will listen to you. And you can address fully, said, hey, I just want you to listen. You don't have to get me any advice. I just want to get this out of my chest. I heard something really beautiful and I wanted to close that. I don't know if I heard it or read it, that there was a group of super successful business people. They had like a circle of friends, more likely. And they had the circle of trust, and it was just super highly successful. And they called each other, hey, I just need to cry for a bit. Could you just lend me your ear? I need to cry. I need to get something out. And then I just were on the phone for 30 minutes. He or she cried and got it off her chest. And then they were able to continue whatever they were doing. And I feel like that is super powerful. I think that is really cool. Yeah.
And that's something that I want to teach Siggy as well. Like that if he needs such an ear, that mommy and daddy are there for him to lend him that ear.
Safe haven, right?
Safe haven, trust, definitely.
All right. The episode is way too long. So I feel like we are leaving with that messaging on a high note. But I would love to continue the conversation there, because I feel like especially mental health and dealing with this kind of stuff while raising kids and questioning yourself is a struggle we are facing.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Whew. Yeah.
All good. Thank you for listening. We are going to hear each other in a good old week. Mars.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time.
Should we mention one last thing that, like we're entering the last week of 75 hard.
That's true.
I mean, we're almost forgetting that we're doing it. We started a challenge,
And
besides being parents.
Yeah, that's true. And we just ran it on the side, and
Exactly.
yeah. All right. Yeah, we are going to report back. I think the next time you're going to hear us, we are done.
Yes.
Right? So,
and then it will be very interesting to hear your takeaways from this challenge.
Yeah.
And
all righty then.
Yeah. Thank you very much for being open.
For sure. Of course. See you in a week, guys. Thanks, Mars. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.